Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy. If you're looking to expand your pool service or get support out in the field, or if you just want one-on-one coaching, join my coaching program with over 270 members and growing. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. Yeah!
Hi, and welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about some limitations with vacuum systems. And this is something that's kind of counterintuitive, I think, because everyone promotes the vacuum system. So I'm going to go over some limitations. And of course, I'll touch on some of the great benefits of having a vacuum system as well. If you're looking to expand your pool service or get support out in the field, or if you just want one-on-one coaching, join my coaching program with over 270 members and growing. Learn more at poolguycoaching.com. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I'm getting a lot of questions about what they can use a vacuum system for. A lot of people are new to the industry and they've heard of vacuum systems, but they're not too familiar with what they can be used for. Primarily, they're used for heavy leaf debris, but a lot of people are asking, can you use these if you, let's say you clean tile and you do glass beading? Can you use the vacuum system to get all of the leftover glass beads, or if you're using baking soda, getting that out of the bottom of the pool? And on occasion, I'll get a question about how the vacuum system doesn't pick up the fine dirt, and the customer is complaining about after vacuuming the pool, there's still dirt on the bottom. So this is the main limitation of the vacuum system, and really the only limitation really that I can think of besides the cost, and I'll go over that in a minute. But as far as picking up fine dirt, it's one of those things where it just can't do that because it's a bag. And if you're wanting to get into some kind of scientific reasons, it's just because, I'll explain it really simple to you. It's the bags are different microns, or they're rated for different microns. Basically, microns are the measurement of particles. The smaller the micron, the better the filtration or capture of the smaller particles. For example, a diatomaceous earth filter or D filter will capture down to 3 microns, which is pretty microscopic. Cartridge filter anywhere from 10 to 20 microns. So the smallest effective micron bag for the vacuum system would be a 60 micron bag. Now, Riptide does make a 25 micron bag, but it's not really something you can use all the time, and it's something that I don't recommend using as your primary bag when you're using a vacuum system. So 60 microns would be the minimum micron that I would recommend, because the water has to pass through the bag and back into the pool. And to explain it really simply and not really scientifically, a 0 micron bag would just be like a Glad trash bag. So just imagine if you had your Riptide vacuum system or your Hammerhead or your bottom feeder, and you put a Glad trash bag over the top of it, over the propeller on top, and then you turn on the system and put it in the water. Well, since that's a 0 micron bag, in essence, none of the water will pass back through. You wouldn't even be able to submerge that into the pool because the water just has no way of going through. It just would fill with air and it would be ineffective. So that's kind of what a 0 micron bag would be like. If you had a 3 micron bag, it would be very similar to that. You would have a hard time with water passing through that bag. And that's why I reference 60 microns as the smallest logical micron bag that you can use with a vacuum system to capture the finer dirt and debris, but let the water pass back through the bag back into the pool. And this is the only limitation that I can think of that would stop you from getting a vacuum system. If you plan on using it to vacuum pools with fine dirt, let's say you're in Arizona or Nevada or the high desert area of California, you couldn't use a vacuum system to vacuum out the pools and get all the fine dirt at the bottom of the pool because they're just not made to do that. As far as that first question about using it for glass beading cleanup, to some extent you can use it, and I've done this before where someone glass beaded a pool and I needed to get the bulk of it out before I used my manual vacuum to get it out. So I used a 60 micron bag. It did capture a lot of it, but it made the pool extremely cloudy, and it's something that I don't recommend. It is not something that's going to be highly effective. But if you are wanting to remove some of it, it does take out some of the smaller or the larger particles, I should say, while the dust-like particles pass right through it. And that's why you can't use a vacuum system to vacuum up dead algae on the bottom. It'll just go right through the bag because algae is a very small micron, or at least most of it is, and you're just going to cloud up the pool. Same with really fine dirt and sand from a storm. It'll pass right through the bag along with the water because, again, it can only trap down to a certain micron. Really, in my opinion, the sweet spot is 75 microns. I like the Riptide 75 micron bag. I think that's really effective in my area. Other areas may use a larger micron, like a 200 micron bag, because they're not worried about the fine dirt and they're just looking to get the leaf debris. Another limitation is the cost of the vacuum system. Now, of course, if you're looking at the Riptide SL, it's somewhere around $1,800 plus tax, and then you may have to pay for shipping depending on where you're at. The bottom feeder is anywhere from around $1,500, I believe, or somewhere around there. Hammerhead is about the same price as the Riptide, so you're not going to get these things really cheap. Now, you may be able to find a used unit somewhere and buy a used vacuum system, but you're going to have to invest a good amount of money for the vacuum system. And that's why a lot of people that are starting out don't get one, or they don't get one for a year or two because of the cost. And it is something that's expensive, and it is something that you may not use all the time on your route. So if you're in an area like mine, Los Angeles County, we don't really get a lot of heavy leaf debris until you have the Santa Ana winds. So it's pretty mild here most of the time. So you won't be using the Riptide or bottom feeder on every service account. And you may be thinking, well, that's not a logical investment. We don't use it on every account, or just maybe 3 pools a day or 2 pools a day. To invest $2,000 in something like that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I can understand the hesitation based on that. And it's very logical because you can skim the bottom of the pool with your leaf rake and then manually vacuum that pool out pretty effectively. And you don't really need the vacuum system. It's an extra accessory, really, and it's a tool that's going to help you on your pool route, but not one that I would consider to be a necessity in a lot of areas. Some areas it definitely is a necessity, but in a lot of regions it may not be an essential tool for your pool route. I would argue, though, that the cost can be offset by the time you save when you do use a vacuum system. It can also be something that you utilize if you have a clause in your service agreement where you vacuum all the pools and the customer wants to see you actually drop a vacuum in. I think also if you have a lot of suction cleaners on your pool route, I did mention the main limitation is to find dirt. However, most of the dirt that it picks up above 75 microns is really going to help the pool's filtration system, and it's going to keep the filter much cleaner if you vacuum with the vacuum system to get the larger dirt out of the pool or larger particles, and let the suction cleaner take in the smaller particles that will go into the filter. I don't really worry about having the fine dirt in the pool when I'm using a vacuum system in my area, because all the pools have mainly suction cleaners, and any dirt that's left behind or dust in the pool will be picked up by the suction cleaner. So it's going to look really nice after I use the vacuum system in there. But as far as the cost of it, I think if you kind of calculate it over the course of, let's say, a year, for example, and I'm going to just give you something pretty simple. Let's say you just use it 10 times a week. So 10 times a week times 50, that's 500 uses. That's actually quite a lot if you do the math over a year. And that equates to about $4 per pool. And if you're charging, $200 per pool, paying $4 per pool to have a vacuum system is pretty affordable. Now, I'm kind of stretching things a little bit and going out there a little bit into left field. But if you kind of get what I'm saying, if you do use it 500 times a year and it costs you $2,000, that means that every time you use it, it's $4. I think it's going to pay for itself pretty quickly on the average pool route, especially when you have a Santa Ana wind event. Like in my area, we get these all the time, and it's going to save you a lot of time out there. And time is money out on your pool route. So to me, it's an investment for sure, and it's something that you may not use all the time, but if you use it 2 times a day for a week and use it over the course of the whole year, it's going to actually pay for itself as far as time saving. And it's really something that if you kind of break it down that way, you kind of get your head around it, that you are investing a big amount of money or a large amount of money for one pool cleaning tool, but it's a tool that's going to be very versatile and very long lasting. These are built really well and they're going to last a very long time. And you're going to find yourself utilizing it more and more. And you're going to be thankful that you actually have the vacuum system. If you don't use it on a daily basis, or if you don't use it as much as you think you should for the investment, it will all even out over time. And over the course of 2 or 3 years, you're going to like having the vacuum system. And the only regret you're going to have is not getting a vacuum system earlier. On the flip side, you can also take on accounts that normally you would pass on. These are pools that have a little heavier debris than you're used to. I'm not talking about taking on these massive pools that have tons of debris. I just recently did a podcast on pools that don't make any sense. I've also done a podcast on pools that you probably shouldn't have on your route. And some of these were the heavy debris pools. And I'm talking about pools where you would spend half an hour just skimming the surface. You don't really want these pools if you can avoid them. But for a vacuum system, vacuuming a pool with, fairly good amounts of debris, I'm not going to say heavy debris, but a pool that you normally wouldn't take necessarily because of the debris load, with the vacuum system, you can handle it pretty easily, and you're going to be able to expand, in a way, the service accounts on your route to take on accounts you normally would pass on, because now you have the vacuum system to make your day shorter and easier. You're going to find that using it also, even if you're spot vacuuming a pool, that's why I love the bottom feeder. You don't have any cords, you don't have a cart really. You just put it onto your pool pole, drop it in. You can vacuum a pool within like 2 or 3 minutes. It's a great way to spot vacuum a pool without having to use your leaf rake to get the leaves out. In fact, if you do get the bottom feeder, I think it's going to make you a little bit lazy in the respect that if you see a pool that has several leaves on the bottom, and normally you would just get your leaf rake and scoop them out, you're going to find that you're going to be connecting your pool to the bottom feeder and dropping it in to get those leaves out. I know it sounds silly, but you're going to utilize the vacuum system more than you think once you have it. Same with the Riptide SL. I like having the cart and being able to bring everything to the backyard. If I don't drop the Riptide into the pool, and some occasions you won't because you get to the pool, there's not really a lot of debris, and so you don't really drop it in there, but everything you have that you needed to bring back there, your chlorine and your acid, are on the Riptide cart, your pool test kit. So it's something that's just easy to conveniently transport everything back to the pool. If you don't use the vacuum system that day, it's not a big deal because the cart is being used to transport your stuff back there to maintain that pool. So I think there's different ways of looking at the vacuum system. If you have a Riptide or Hammerhead on the back of your truck, it does make you look a lot more professional as well. One of the drawbacks of the bottom feeder is that you're probably going to keep it inside the bed of your truck, not the bed of your truck, the back seat of your truck. I would probably not leave it in the bed of the truck because it may get stolen out of there. But most pool pros have a 4-door truck now, and you'll be putting the bottom feeder in the back seat. So no one really sees it until you're using it. But visually with the Riptide and Hammerhead on the back of your truck, it's going to make you look much more professional. And I think that's going to go a long way when you go into bid accounts that you have this vacuum system on the back of the truck, and it makes you look like a real pool professional. I'm not saying that if you don't have one, you don't look as professional. Optically, people will gravitate towards more equipment. When you see a gardener on the freeway that just has a lawnmower, a blower, and maybe a weed whacker in the back, then you see another gardener that has tons of equipment and they have a larger truck, you're going to think that the other gardener with more equipment
looking for other podcasts that I did with Bob Lowry, simply go to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon, and then it'll take you to the podcast website. In the search box, just type in Bob Lowry, and the podcast that I had done with Bob Lowry in the past will appear there. If you're looking for the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com.
It's still handy to have on there, and it's still great when having leaf debris. You're going to be thankful you have it in a windstorm, and really it serves a really good purpose of cleaning the pool rapidly, especially if you have a lot of leaves on the bottom and the manual vacuum won't work. In that case, a lot of times you're manually vacuuming the pool with the pool system, and then you run over a pile of leaves, the vacuum head gets clogged up. It takes you longer in a lot of cases to vacuum a pool, where the vacuum system doesn't really have that problem. It runs off of an independent marine battery. Now, the bottom feeder actually has a battery on itself and chambers on the back of the bottom feeder itself and it submerges into the pool. But for the Riptide and Hammerhead, most pool pros will use an battery, and that's on the cart itself. Or if you have a portable version of this, you would carry the battery in. Needless to say, it's a completely separate system than the pool system. So you're not plugging it into the pool. You're not connecting any hoses. You're getting all the leaf debris into these bags, and the bags will range from micron ratings anywhere from 60 microns up to 400 microns. And it's a great way to clean a pool and not use the pool's filtration system. So that's a definite plus. And I highly recommend you looking into a vacuum system if you don't have one yet. And if you do have one, of course, if you're listening to this on YouTube, leave a comment on how much you like your vacuum system and how it really speeds up the time on your pool route. Looking for other podcasts I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. That'll take you to a drop-down menu of over 1,500 podcasts. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app. Real quick, if you're not using pool service software, try Skimmer free for 30 days at getskimmer.com/poolguy. Again, that's getskimmer.com/poolguy. Skimmer, everything you need to run your pool service business all in one app.